Welcome to another edition of Detroit in Black and White. I'm Adolph Mongo. We're live from McShane's in Corktown. Good morning, Vanessa Moss.
Good morning. I like the seating arrangements. What is this?
It's a coup.
More than friends,
it's
but
cool.
less than lovers.
Yeah, it's a coup. We have moved you to the other side. Good morning, Allan Lengel.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's go straight to outrage of the week. Vanessa.
So my outrage has to do with the Soul Fest that's taking place this weekend in Stone Mountain, Georgia. You have a majority of R&B groups, gospel groups that are performing right there at Stone Mountain. Confederate flags and the Confederate monument. Now, if that is not outrageous, I don't know what is. And then you have protest groups that are saying, hey, you guys shouldn't be doing this. And the response from some of the artists is, we signed a contract. Yeah, you signed a contract, but you knew where you were performing before you signed the doggone contract. So guess what? You decided that these dollars mean more to you than making a stance. And I just think it's outrageous.
Are you shocked? Are you shocked that the dollar trumps all?
You talk about Trump all the time. I'm messing with you.
I'm going to talk about him now. That's going to be my outrage.
But no, I'm not surprised, but I can't be outraged and offended that is what they're doing.
Right.
I think it's ridiculous. And when you see some of the artists that are performing, like the Stylistics, they came from Chicago. Tasha Cobb Leonard, I think that's her last name. She's a gospel artist. I mean, these people decide that they're going to sign a contract to perform, that you get to decide whether or not you want to do that or not. And now these protest groups are dogging them out, and as far as I'm concerned, rightfully so.
Well, you know what? We ain't had that problem. Remember Sun City in South Africa when they was boycotting South Africa?
Oh, yeah.
And they was paying all this huge amount of money for groups to come in and entertain. Beyonce got bought off by the Saudi princes and stuff. They paying you $20 million to go to a birthday party. That's hard to turn down. And if you had some Jewish singing groups going to Auschwitz to perform, what you think would happen?
Right.
But you know what's interesting is in 2020 we had this movement here in the United States where they were taking down Confederate monuments. I mean, people were outraged that you still had these Confederate monuments. You had these people, these statues of people, and they were tearing them down.
But you can't take that one down because you have to blow it up.
But guess what? You can't do that. But guess what? You don't have to perform there.
Okay.
You know what? You see everything. You know, when we were on strike at the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press, we would ask people to boycott places like Don't Shop Here. At the time, Hudson's was advertising. We'd ask people, Art Van was taking advantage of the cheap advertising rates. And people just refused. We picketed in front of those places. The one place, actually, surprisingly, Meyer was supportive of our strike, and they did not advertise.
What people are going to do, you had people calling me saying, don't give comments to the scab reporters and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you know, you did or you didn't.
Right.
You know what? This also brings to mind the fact that, you had the NAACP and other groups saying, hey, don't spend your money in Florida. Don't vacation in Florida.
Right, sure.
People have all kinds of excuses of why they're going to Florida.
Because they got relatives.
You see that they
live there.
Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which is a black fraternity, the oldest black fraternity, they were supposed to have their convention there, and they said, you know what, we're taking a stand.
Right.
We're not.
Where are they going?
I don't know where they're going, but I know they're not going to Florida.
Okay, let's move on to Allan.
All right. It's so much. I'm going to talk about Trump because to me, it's a surprise. I mean, one, it's so interesting, one, that our congressional district here, the GOP, all the GOP members here have endorsed him. The Republicans are so afraid of him, and every candidate running against him, except for Chris Christie, they're all afraid to take him on. And you know what? They're going to pay for that. Either way, I mean, they feel like they go after him, he's going to make fun of them, but they can't win. They can't win by letting that guy.
You know what, Allan? You would have some people say that because of people like you talk about them all the time, you dog them out all the time. People will say, see, we're talking about people like you. You're picking on him. You guys are piling on him. He just recently, he may be facing some more charges. I think he has 40 charges now, right?
He sucks all the air out of. He is the media every day, and I fault to the fault of the media. Yeah, right. I agree. It's like he makes. I can tell you,
you created it.
You created a friend I know at the New York Times. He wrote about Trump. He says that story blew up, man. He says Trump stories blow up. So there's an incentive there. And look, the guy is, the guy's interesting. He draws
and he's dangerous and he got into your head, Allan.
Right.
Yeah. He's rent free in my head.
Right. But anyway,
start charging him rent.
But anyway, I tell you, my outrage is these fucking idiots here in Detroit worried about changing the Hart Plaza to King Plaza or vice versa. The place is a mess. They need to fix it up. And we know the game that Sam Riddle and Mary Waters playing. She's for the name change. He's against it. Phil Hart was a decent guy.
Yeah,
he was a moderate liberal Republican, Democrat at the time when people were real bigots.
Right.
But I don't care if they change his name or not. Fix up Hart Plaza.
Right.
Fix it up.
What's the point?
Fix up Hart Plaza. Yeah. How about fix up Martin Luther King Boulevard? Have you noticed that wherever you go in the United States, the streets that are named Martin Luther King Boulevard are the worst streets
except
ever.
Two.
What are two?
Charlotte, Martin Luther King Boulevard is the NASCAR museum.
Okay.
Hell of a area. And Riviera Beach, where Martin Luther King Boulevard and Obama Boulevard cross each other.
Oh, okay.
So
Chris Rock does a whole thing about MLK Boulevard. I don't know if you've ever heard his.
But the whole point of it is they sitting here arguing about whether you change the fucking name, fix the damn place.
And what's the point really of changing? I see Kobo or whatever, where you have like these racist or slave owners, but Phil Hart, just because he's white, he's gonna not. What's the basis for changing the name?
Well, because people want it. People want it. Yeah, people just want it because they put a little statue of King out there. Duggan know how to play the game. You know what? He embraced the Black Lives Matter, and all Black Lives Matter got was a fucking they painted a street, and then they got rid of it. When they were doing those marches, I kept seeing them come down Michigan Avenue, up Michigan Avenue. What did they accomplish? Not one fucking thing. And now here we are talking about let's change Hart Plaza or the building that the Illigers are forced to tear down. It used to be part of Chinatown.
Right.
Now they want to keep it up. And then all the Asian Americans, Cheffney's change, leave it up. Fucker, put some money in it and fix it up. Right. So that's my outrage of the week. Of the year,
Martin Luther King Plaza, huh?
Yeah, man, it fix the place up. When was
the last time you went out on Hart Plaza? When was the last time you were there?
Probably I'm trying to think. Maybe last year for the Jazz Fest.
Okay, all right.
If you trip, you're gonna kill yourself because of the concrete. I'm just telling you, from Hart Plaza, they need to fix it up. They need to fix it up. Detroit got a ton of problems. Besides, well, we're going to change the name. But, man, we can change the name on a lot of things. But let's fix up the neighborhoods. Let's bring some jobs in here. King Plaza, man. I'm baffled.
You say there's a million places and things to, change names. But I don't know. Senator Hart, I thought was really a good senator, and I don't think there's
all of a sudden people crying. Oh, don't change for your Hart. I said okay,
right,
but then fix the place up.
Right.
But anyway,
it's like the Belle Isle. During the bankruptcy, there were people who did not want the state to.
Okay. Frankie Darcell.
Good morning.
Can you hear us, Frankie?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Good morning. Good morning. Hey there.
That's like talking to a deaf person. You speaking loud.
Are we? She's coming in on my computer. Let me see. Shit.
So we're gonna sit here while you play. We can still talk.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
Just could continue to talk.
Yeah. Well. Okay. All right. Hey, Frank.
Here you are. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good morning. Good morning.
How you doing, Frankie?
Listen, how y'all doing?
You know what? We had a storm here in Detroit, and internet goes in and out. Modern technology.
I gotta say this. You know, the first time you came on the show, we had the same issue. Remember?
The energy. It's the energy.
It's the energy. You just zap all the energy. Is that what it is?
Bring the energy. See, people don't really want to hear what we have to talk about. So it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theory. Good morning to each of you guys. Good morning. Good morning.
Ain't no question. Well, your vice president has finally come out of her shell. And she got an issue that I think she's going to be great for Biden's campaign. The Black History controversy in Florida. What do you think of her going down there and
play the video?
Causing trouble? We're going to play this video, then we'll come back to you.
Tonight, the battle over Florida's new history curriculum.
They insult us in an attempt to gaslight us.
It's very thorough, very factual. Nobody's buying their nonsense anymore.
Going national. A White House official tells NBC News that Vice President Kamala Harris decided to go to Florida specifically to challenge its new standards for Black history education passed just days ago.
They dare to push propaganda to our children.
Critics are blasting the changes, pointing to lessons that teach middle school students, quote, how slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
This is unnecessary to debate whether enslaved people benefited from slavery. Are you kidding me?
So, your take.
We're on the crest of an election year. What else would you expect, right? Exactly. If you want to bring the issues to the forefront and attack who would be the second person, quite frankly, I think Governor DeSantis' middle name is Dion. It's appropriate. If you think of a dictator like somebody like Ron DeSantis, you go right to his hometown and you finish him off. The Biden administration has its own challenges, and on an issue like this, one of the things that I've kind of focused on is that Black folk always got to be the butt of the issue, right? So even with Donald Trump's campaign in 2020, it was about trying to figure out how you can address issues that hit people at home. It's their actual beliefs on issues. At least with Donald Trump, he believes a lot of what he's saying. With Ron DeSantis, he's doing it as a strategy, and I just don't think it's going to work. Do we know that this is shenanigans and ridiculousness, talking about whether slavery benefited Black folk? Come on, let's be for real. But this is really for both the Democrats and Ron DeSantis an opportunity to make Black folks again the butt of an issue. And really long term, Black folks are going to feel the residual effects of this major international conversation. And I quite frankly think it's unfortunate, but I understand why the vice president will go there and bring attention to not only Ron DeSantis. I think the strategy is to be able to force the conversation for the entire Republican Party by asking them the question, because they asked Senator Tim Scott that question this week, and he almost had to flip over himself. They're forcing this issue on the rest of the Republican Party by asking them, how do you feel about it? But it's unfortunate, again, that the history of my grandmother, who died at 101 years old, that I knew in 1975, who was on the back end of slavery, I knew her, all of us. If we think about it, we're only 2 generations from slavery. Our great-grandparents definitely lived under Jim Crow. And it is deplorable that Black folks in this country have to be the brunt of an issue politically for people to get elected to the presidency. But we as a community will have to deal with the residual effects of all of the debate along the way. And I think it's unfortunate.
Well, let me ask you, don't you think that they're trying to appeal to some of the racists here in the country to say, and the racists are like, yeah, we're, you know, I mean, it's such it's so insulting. How can you even say that with a straight face, that there was a benefit to slavery? And yet there's people out there who are like, right on. Yes.
Absolutely. Ditto to what you said. Say it louder for the people in the back that didn't hear you. That's exactly my point. They're not saying it because it's true. They're saying it so that in forums like this, we'll continue the conversation. Had he not said that, had he not brought that kind of conversation to the table, listen, I interviewed a number of people from the Trump campaign after the last campaign. And one of the things they talked about, they specifically are targeting those individuals whose personal beliefs. This is one of the reasons why no matter what Donald Trump gets charged with, there are people who are loyalists because they're addressing issues that are personal to them. It's not about whether you're going to have health care. It's not whether or not your kid's education is going to be better because, you know, education in your communities, because I believe that for those, in reference to what you're saying in terms of race or racism, this is something that is passionate to me. And even if I lose some of those people that are supporting Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, whether I lose my health care, whether I lose initiatives that are in my community, you're addressing something that is most important to me, and that's my quality of life as a white Anglo-Saxon person in this country, or as a Black person in this country. That's personal, and that's one of the reasons why those people are still supporting those two individuals.
But you need but you need a boogeyman, and Ron DeSantis took the playbook out of the old Dixiecrat campaigns of, okay, let's spotlight the Black folks. They the one that causing all the problems down here. That's why we got to ban books. That's why you can't say gay. That's why, you know, woke. I was wondering when John James, who is a Black Republican congressman from this area, who was a officer in the Army, I said, when is he going to speak up? Because Ron DeSantis basically said the diversity in the military, weaken our military. They holding up promotions. They don't want to promote a woman to a higher rank, or the guy that's taking over the Joint Chief of Staff.
Right.
Is African American. So they playing that boogeyman game.
All right. But did you really think that John James was going to say anything anyway?
I think he came out. I think he tweeted.
He finally said something. Go ahead.
What did he say?
He said slavery. He jumped at him and said,
tweeted something about it. I think yesterday, and said, basically the whole thing is bullshit. That he said the whole issue, whether the benefit to slavery is bullshit.
So my thing is this: he said that he took it out of a playbook, and Frankie said called it shenanigans. And she also indicated that Trump really believed these things. But if you look at the history of Ron DeSantis, and if you look at his political track record, he believes what he's saying. There's no doubt about it.
I think
he's an ideologue. He believes. He's a believer in it. All bullshit.
And my point to that, and you know what you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. Both of them are a tragedy to America. Both of them. Do I believe he believes it? Yes, I absolutely do believe he believes it. But on this platform, which he's never been in before, even when he served in the House of Representatives, he's never been on a national stage. As an interviewer, you could see his level of uncomfortability. You could see his campaign imploding. And if I were in Vegas today, I would bet that he will be out of this race by December, before the campaign really hits 2024. But my point was he's using it specifically as a strategy. Donald Trump, with all of his background in media, he's prepared to be able to handle that. Ron DeSantis is not ready to be able to handle it. He's using it as a strategy. And unfortunately, for those people who live in Florida, and I know quite a few across the diaspora, who are so disappointed about how Florida is being portrayed, the policies that he's putting in place, not for the best interests of people who live in Florida, but for his own personal campaign. And as a footnote to that, let me just say, because you hit people where it hurts, shout out to those individuals of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated who moved their entire convention from Florida. Stevie Wonder, who said it almost 4.5 years ago, that he refuses to perform in Florida until this regime, this dictatorship is out of place.
Hold tight, Frank. We're gonna have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to continue the conversation. Detroit Black and White. Frankie Darcell.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Dang, it's raining.
Okay, welcome back, Frankie. You saying the folks that's boycotting Florida have been doing it for the last 4 years. It's when these athletes, now this is what I believe, these athletes stop going to Florida State and the University of Florida to play football and basketball. That's when you're going to see some movement, because they bring in millions and millions of dollars and start. Go ahead.
Well, Adolph, two things. One, you're the only person that can call me in a public forum Frank, and I love it. But let me just say this as well. When you look at even his immigration policies and some of the policies that DeSantis has put in place, some of those individuals who are undocumented that worked in the fields and the orange groves and lemon groves and the like. And if you look, and I'm a person who uses a lot of lemons, the prices have gone, existentially off the radar. It's being hit. A lot of that isn't being talked about right now. The economy in Florida is really being hit, and you're looking at those workers that they can't find enough to even pick oranges and the like. That state is really becoming under attack. And when you look at organizations and some of the folk I named earlier that are starting to make decisions not to do business there, let me just say this, because we know that Disney as well has had some challenges with the governor. I say fly into Orlando if that's what you're going to do, and just take an Uber right back to the airport and get out. But, for other parts of that state, it's really tough. But I would even say to you that this is not just a Florida issue. I get that discussion. I get that the vice president went down there to do that. But I think across the board, even in Michigan, I'll just say, I was in D.C. recently and preparing to do an event with some people at the CDC next month, September, in the conversation even about Michigan and the retirement of Debbie Stabenow, looking at Detroit with this population of almost 82% African Americans. And what do you have? 11 people running for Debbie Stabenow's seat. It's a conversation across the board of how, if we're talking about Black communities and curriculums and those policies being put in place, when you don't have representation. Now, are they talking about Detroit In Washington, absolutely they are. But is it getting the same type of conversation and the same type of attention it did when the Honorable John Conyers served, when Barbara Rose Collins served, when Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick served? The answer to that question is absolutely not. So we can sit here and talk about Florida all day and that policy, but inch by inch by inch, like Florida has been eroded as it relates to the democratic issues and those needs of Black communities in Florida. Let's just be clear. It didn't start just under Ron DeSantis. It was little by little by little as it related to the Black community and initiatives concerning the Black community. And quite frankly, I think it's a conversation for Michigan as well.
And
let's be real about that.
Well, the thing is,
Detroit.
With DeSantis and why it's so important to push back is because he's running for president. He's trying to take that template in Florida and spread it and make it a national platform. And I think that's why
it's not working.
It's not working, thankfully.
He's not working.
Well, he's a clown. I mean,
he's not working, but
the message worked. The message is out there. The message is out there, and you're right, Frankie. Detroit interest. We got a Ferengi representing us in the 13th district. Listen.
And here's John James. Somebody's posted what John James tweeted.
I can't believe he said that.
Somebody tweeted, it says slavery was not CTE. Nothing about that 400 years of evil was net benefit to my ancestors. So that is John James. I saw that on Twitter. I think it was on yesterday.
Well, it's about time. It's about time. They were so embarrassed, the Republican delegation in D.C., so embarrassed by Ron DeSantis, but he didn't expect them to come out and come at him. And now they saying, oh, you're taking the vice president playbook. Man, they taking their own personal playbook, because Tim Scott it knows he's from a state that has a long history of lynching, of segregation. It was a slave state. It was the first state to leave the Union because of they want to keep slavery. And they want to expand it.
What does Tim Scott said about it?
He said his ancestor was raped and sold and everything else, and nobody benefited except the people that owned the slaves.
Let me say this: you guys are talking about John James. We talked about him last week. It's the election season. Of course he's going to make a statement.
Right.
Let's not be fooled here.
Right.
Now, does he believe it? He probably does. But we've been talking about DeSantis and this Board of Education.
6 months, a year.
The longest.
2 years.
He's just now making a tweet, a statement about it. It means nothing.
Because he's embarrassed. Because he's going to lose. He's going to lose.
Exactly.
And let's be clear. The strategy of those within the Democratic Party is to take the conversation and this initiative that Ron DeSantis is moving forward and turn it on to other Democrats and turn it on to other Republicans by asking them the question whether or not they believe in that. I mean, that is one of the Democratic strategies. That's what they're talking about in Washington, to now hold accountable of the Republican Party, more specifically those who are African American, like Tim Scott and John James and others who are speaking out publicly about, especially when you talk about Tim Scott, who's running for president as well. But this is not the first conversation. This is not the first conversation we've had in this country about Black folk and in a major election cycle that we're going to be facing next year in some states on the senatorial side as well as the presidential side. And quite frankly, it is unfortunate. And as I talk to my listeners across the country here in Pennsylvania, which is going to be a huge state, the president has been here 4 times in the last year dealing with this issue. It is unfortunate. And I will tell you as a voter, and I can tell you listening to my audience on a regular basis, Black folks are exhausted about being the brunt of the conversation about slavery and the like. Quite frankly, I think this is a conversation. Absolutely, Adolph. But you know what? Black folks keep asking the question, why do white folks feel the way that they do? There needs to be a panel of all white folks having this conversation.
But Frank, go ahead.
Let me say this. I think it's interesting that we're talking about education, what's in the textbooks concerning slavery, but really the big picture should be the state of education in the United States, in particularly in urban areas, how the education system has failed our children, has failed us. So we're talking about what should be in a textbook. What are we doing about our kids propelling in the area of education? We're not talking about that. We're talking about what they're doing in Florida. But the bigger issue is the state of education in the United States.
But you know, it's interesting to go to Germany. You go to Germany, and the kids in elementary school learn about the Holocaust. It's not sugar-coated. They get it. Here in the United States, when we talk about racism being such a serious issue, the white kids in the suburbs, the white kids in the rural areas have to learn about that and have a better understanding of why we got to where we got to. And that's what history is about.
Well, because people want to sweep it under the rug. But getting back to the original question, is Harris, Vice President Harris, Grandpa's secret weapon?
You have such a colorful way of asking you a question, Dana. You know, she's the Vice President of the United States. If you're going to talk about an issue concerning race, it's real clear that she would be a perfect person to have that conversation. And quite frankly, she has the energy and the background to be able to do it. As an African-American woman and serving as first woman and vice president of color in the United States, I think she's the perfect person to have the conversation. I thought that she did an amazing job when she did go to Florida and addressing the issues opposed to allowing these comments to be just made without someone having a retort to them.
Now, how are you going to get people like Ice Cube, who went and now he got his newfound friend Tucker Carlson, and these folks are, you know, they got an axe to grind. They mad at Obama. They mad at this. You know, they didn't get this from the former president, and now they going out and they throwing. You know, yeah, you're right. We did benefit from slavery. You know, somebody that made millions of dollars.
And the question is
singing songs, fuck the police and shit.
But wait a minute. This, what's interesting about him? This is the same guy who, the last election, he had a black agenda that he was going to present. Correct? And Black America was outraged that how dare he meet with the former guy that occupied the White House about an agenda. What I found offensive is if you look at his voting record, which was, get the hell out of here, dude. Go and have a seat. Are you serious?
Well, the first thing is that people believe,
are you serious?
That because you like an individual's movie or you like their song or they did a painting that you like, that meant that you personally agreed with them. Be it Ice Cube or be it Kanye West or anybody else. The question might be you could bounce up and down to this song, but would you sit down with them and have a personal conversation, not only with Ice Cube, but even some of the athletes or some of the other high profile people whose agendas are not your agenda. Listen, you know, Goma Pyle once said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This is not the first time that Ice Cube has had that conversation with someone on the Republican side of the party. And you really want to find out about, you know, some of these individuals and their businesses. Look at who they're in business with. Absolutely. I mean, what you see is what you get, period.
Absolutely. And then he had the nerve to take them in the hood that you don't live in. You haven't lived in that hood in eons. Sure. Let's talk about the community that you live in and how Black folks are benefiting in that community. You can't do that. You're not going to do that. Most of your conversation was about how you lost money because you didn't take the poll. Dude, go sit down somewhere.
Well, you know, but Frankie, you know what? We're going to have you back on again because you keep it real. And thanks for coming.
Thank you.
This Saturday on Detroit in Black and White, Frankie Darcell.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes, Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's Office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388-9799, or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, we got a guy on here. You know, he listens to us from Atlanta, Georgia. Man, why, man?
I definitely like to tune in. Me being from Detroit, I like to see what's going on locally. So
introduce yourself.
I'm Myles Wilson, by the way. So
is you some kin to the?
Yes, I'm akin to Vanessa Moss, who's the third part of the show.
The heart of the show.
I'm the part of the show, the one that the SHIT starter. She's in here, so I'm not going to use the term, but that's the term that she's typically known by. So I'm her son. One of her sons. So
and Myles, let me and it's so great to have you here. You know, listen, voters your age, I don't know what to call you, Generation XYZ or Generation out of this world.
So because I was born in '96, y'all asked me that earlier. So I think it's a blend between Z and Y or millennial or whatever the terms are for this generation. So,
are you excited? Are you excited about the upcoming presidential race?
No, not really. Not at all. As far as these candidates that are currently on the docket, I mean, it's pretty much a two-party system that we have here in the United States, Democratic, Republican. So, as far as us voting and making decisions, it's important, of course. But me just looking at the candidates that we have. I'm not sure if it's...
Did you vote in the last election?
The general election, no. I did vote for the local.
Why not?
For the general election, I felt like the candidates didn't represent me, represent my community.
And we're talking about the presidential election?
Presidential election.
So you didn't vote for Trump or Biden?
No.
It would have made a difference, you think?
In my opinion, I don't think it would have made a difference. I feel like those individuals, they do have an influence on how the nation carries out our tasks and duties, but it's definitely it's a conglomerate.
What about a person like Cornel West?
I like Cornel West. I thought he was an amazing guest that y'all had on this platform. The things that he believes in the notion he has as far as being a trusted God, I feel like that was an aspect that's been lost within our nation. So I feel like he's a great candidate for the independent party, but independence, it's damn near impossible to win.
Right. And I think realistically, I mean, we would all love more choices.
Yeah.
But in the end, if it comes down to Trump and Biden, which a lot of people would prefer fresher faces in there. Mm-hmm. But when Cornel West runs, he has the potential to spoil it for Joe Biden and put Trump in office.
Why is it Joe Biden? I disagree with that. I think that, you know what, those never Trumpers are the ones that he's going to attract. Cornel West is so far left that he took a right turn. And some of the stuff that he's talking, you know, those conservative right wing, they love it.
He was on Fox. They were eating it up with Laura Ingraham. She was trying to get him. They were like having a love fest, and she finally takes it the next step and says, "Well, wouldn't you say that President Trump has done a lot of great things for Black people?" And he's like, "Oh no," he goes.
Necessarily say that. I feel like it's twofold. Every presidency, they do some good things for certain communities, and they do nothing for other communities. So this is dependent. So Trump, he did, maybe there were some legislation that he did pass that maybe did benefit people. But during his presidency, we were going through a nationwide crisis. So it's kind of hard to be able to judge everything that was going on during his presidency. You can see a lot of results.
What is going to get young folks like you to get out the vote?
What will get me to vote?
Yeah.
Is is people that look like me coming together actually, and then coming up with a singular voice for us to push forward. So then a candidate that we vote and elect is someone that represents us and our thoughts, ideals, and what we believe.
Who would that be for president if you had a choice right now and said,
out of the candidates that we got?
No, anybody. Who would be a good candidate and who would be a good president?
It's hard to say anybody. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody.
Right.
I really can't. I mean, it being such a position that you are getting pulled so many different directions, that individual has to be someone that's interested in morals, values, and has a core belief in what they want to do. So that's why I feel like Trump wins a lot, because he has that type of mentality. So I feel like if someone like that is representative of my community, the Black community, I feel like that's who I want to vote for.
What do your friends say about this election? Do you talk about?
Yeah, we definitely do talk about
politics. And is it apathy, or is it what is the
it's a huge dichotomy that exists. So you either got individuals that are one side or another. It's never the gray area. That's why I like to be in the gray area. Nothing is ever black and white. There's always multiple truths to things, and also multiple falsehoods to things. So
it's a mature outlook in life when you see the gray.
Real talk. You have to do research on your own. Use your discernment. You can't just take the information that's given to you, whether it's MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. You got to take the initiative to want to learn, be involved within the local community to see what things need to be changed. So, like you guys were talking about it earlier, MLK Boulevard in almost every city is
fucked up,
destroyed. It's crazy.
I say Chris Rock does a whole shtick on that, saying MLK was all about nonviolence, but you go to MLK
it's
Boulevard,
the most violent area.
Yeah, almost every area. Yeah. So, even the King high schools in almost every city, those are the urban high schools. So, I don't know. I feel like Frankie Darcell mentioned earlier, we are always the butt of every joke, Black community. I feel like we need to take the initiative to either change. Voting and participating hasn't changed anything.
Or run for office.
Or have somebody that runs for office that's going to promote the things that we want to do.
Would you ever run for office?
I wouldn't mind. That's been something I've had.
Are you down in Atlanta now?
Yeah, I'm living down in Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Would you ever think about running down there as a city council, start out, or
that'd
something?
Be cool. So as of late, I'll be honest, Allan, I've been trying to get more involved in the community out in Atlanta. I've been living out there for about 3 going on 4 years now. So me just getting more active in the community, doing volunteer work and stuff, that would probably push me in the direction maybe leading towards political office.
And how old are you again?
27.
27. Okay.
Just a baby.
Yeah. Well, that's a good age. A good age with a lot of good energy.
Vanessa didn't even know her own son. 96. But anyway, Myles, hey man, keep listening to us, bro.
Most definitely. I'm gonna continue to support the platform. I love how you guys continue to bring on a plethora of different individuals from different backgrounds. That's the key, being able to provide perspective.
And how can they reach us, Allan?
They can reach us. Well, we have. You can actually email us, and we'd like people to send videos with comments if you want to DetroitinBlackandWhite@gmail.com. And then we have a website called DetroitinBlackandWhite.com, which you can see all the episodes. You can either video or podcast. You can listen to it. We're on YouTube. After the show is done, it's recorded on YouTube. It's on Facebook Live right now, but it'll also be recorded there. You can go back. And so, and Deadline Detroit, I put it up every week on the Deadline Detroit platform.
Okay, thanks, Myles Wilson. Go ahead.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. Residents may apply for up to $25,000 to help cover 2019, 2020, and 2021 tax years. Previous year's taxes must be paid in full or in a payment agreement with the Treasurer's office. Eligible homeowners must have a qualified financial hardship that occurred on or after January 21st, 2020. You must currently own and occupy your home as your primary residence and must have owned it since January 21st, 2020. To see if you qualify, please visit waynemetro.org, call 313-388 9799 or email textinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Listen, we got to listen to our young viewers, our young people that's out there in the street, because they're going to be taking over.
Not.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those individuals who said, he and I had a spirited conversation. He talked about how, he feels like, Democrats always want, Black folks always want to vote mostly Democrat, and, those to vote Republican. He was like, people go to the voting booth and they vote for their own individual interests, which is something that basically Frankie Darcell has said, what I say on a regular basis. And he said, listen, what difference does it make?
It makes a difference.
I think that if you're saying
it makes a difference.
I'm saying that's his opinion. He
right.
says, what difference does it make? Because we're not going to benefit either way, because we don't have a plan.
That's why you got idiots that sit on these city council, school boards, and the state house, controlling everything, because people that we need to run for office, to be involved, don't get involved. And so you got stuff that's happening in the city. Oh, don't tear down that building or change the name of this. Instead of dealing with some of the real issues, we got crime, we got jobs, we got the school system. Know what?
It's abysmal.
Yes.
At best. I mean, really, not only is that a local issue, that really should be what we should, when we're talking about looking for, deciding who's going to be the president. Yeah, we could talk about what's in the textbooks, but let's talk about the state of education in the United States. We don't talk about that, okay? Let's talk about, for real, if you're talking about poverty, I was listening today about how there's someone in Texas is trying to get legislation passed because, contrary to what people have said in the past, there's global warming, there's climate change.
It is.
In Texas, it's extremely hot. You have people that are living in subsidized housing, if you will, okay? What do we call them? The project.
Section 8.
The project, whatever we call them. But they don't have air conditions.
They don't have a right to have air. That's what they say.
That's basically what they say.
They don't have a right to have air.
It's an issue because it goes to your quality of life.
So people die.
Okay, people will die.
But those are
real issues. Wait a minute. That people who don't historically engage, those are ways that you could get those people engaged by addressing those kinds of real issues.
Well, we're gonna have a whole show because we can talk about
Detroit needs to, people who live in the city, young couples who live in the city, when they have children, a lot move out to the burbs where they don't have to pay for a private school, where there's really good public schools. There are some good schools.
Lengel, that's not true, because I know people that live out in the suburbs. They're not sending their kids to the Southfield schools. They're not even sending their kids to Grosse Pointe North or South. Or they listen. It's a lot of private schools.
Well, I'm telling you, Berkeley has a good school district. Bluefield Hills.
But then you got where the drugs come with some of that stuff.
You can't avoid that.
But anyway,
how's that school system?
Yeah.
See?
I mean, look, public schools, there's not enough. There's mental health and public schools are two areas that get so neglected. Here in Detroit, we're still, the school system here.
We need to have a whole show. This is it. Your last, it's time to go. Your final thoughts, Lengel.
My final thoughts are, hey, I don't know if I have a final thought. I have too many thoughts.
Trump is one of your thoughts.
Trump. Yes, he's paying rent. He's going to be paying rent for that space in my head, man.
He doesn't pay. He's not going to pay you anything, okay?
Your final thought.
He doesn't pay his bills.
No kidding. My final thought is everyone have a wonderful, safe weekend. I know there's people that are without power. If you know people that are without power, go and offer to get them some food or go and pick them up and take them to your place.
Okay.
It was, this weekend, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, Rho Sigma chapter is hosting Swim 1922. We talked about it last week.
Right.
Going over to Rouge Park today, 12 to 4. It's free for the first 100. The sorority is going to sponsor. If you have a card, Detroit Parks and Rec card, you get there free. And if not, $2. We'll come out and enjoy DJ, food, and all of that. I got my shirt on, Sisterhood, SG Row.
Okay, and I want to thank Myles Wilson all the way from Atlanta, GA. Frankie Darcell.
For all your expenses, right, to come up. Yeah. First rate show.
Wait a minute. What is this? A Moss Wilson thing? Travis, is it? Well, hey, listen, Travis, happy birthday. Yeah, happy birthday. I want to thank Jim, Teresa, Henry.
All right.
Henry, he buys into the Kool-Aid. He hit Cornel West is in his head. Trump is in his head. I don't know what's in my head.
West is on his chest, okay?
What Grandpa's in my head. But anyway, we'll be back next week at McShane's. This is Detroit in black and white, 10 a.m. Oh, what? Listen.
Yeah, well, we're good. We can.
Right.
No, it doesn't matter.
It don't matter. You know why you? Why? Well, listen, we got Henry, and I don't even want to call him a name. Long time. Okay.
We've been friends too long.
Well, anyway.
Henry is that guy. He's that guy. Right. He's the reason that
where they can see us at and hear us.
They can see us here at McShane's every Saturday at 10 o'clock. We're on the corner of Trumbull and Michigan Avenue. You can also see us on YouTube.
And
Detroit
Frankie Darcell.
Detroit in black and white. You can also see us on Facebook or Deadline Detroit. You can look us up on our website, DetroitInBlackAndWhite.com. And thank you, Frankie Darcell. Looking forward to having you back on the show.
And also, thanks to all the people who are commenting. It helps. It adds another dimension to our show for people. Comment. If you want to comment, we'll try to post it. Unless you say something bad about us. Just kidding. You can say bad stuff. You just won't post it.
Well, and I want to say next week, services for Brenda Hill, my former co-host here on Detroit in black and white at the Church of the Messiah.
And what time is that
at? 3 o'clock.
Oh, 3 o'clock.
But yes, Brenda was something else. She liked the star stuff. And you know what? Her famous words were, you know what? Hang up on him. He's a radio revolutionary. He all talk and no action. And you know what? Brenda was a lot of action. Going to be missed.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week.
All right.
You can dish it out, but you got so that you can't take it no more.
Whoops, the wrong one.